doesn't let you actually set up your live stream anymore. So when you go, yeah, okay, next, 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 it just goes live. So we are live. And remember Arthur Dent, our cousin, brother, sister, mother, all of that stuff. So, where were we? Because we need some ridiculousness, don't we? Just a little bit. I want to find some continuation in my book. So, by the way, folks, I have purchased, you'll be pleased to know, Andre Norton's Cat's Eye. So I will be reading from that. I have also purchased all of the Asimov Foundation books. So I will be reading that as well. I also, my bad, I purchased the old Chaining the Lady series from Pierce, not the other Morgan, Pierce Morgan. Now, he's a writer that has written some really trippy stuff, right? You want some trippiness? Come listen to my readings. Anyway, I bought some other books. And I bought The God Whale, by the way, by T.J. Bass. So I will be reading The God Whale, because that book, that will blow your mind. It's like some trippy shit, right? Anyway, what's happened to Arthur Dent? Because I think we should know, unless you've read the books. You know, this might be a little bit new to you. So it's like, my God, they are. Oh, hang on, that's not the right place to start. So remember Ford Prefect. So Arthur Dent, he wakes up one morning and there's freaking bulldozers bulldozing his freaking land around his house. And they're going to bulldoze his house. But he was never notified. Funny thing that, isn't it? Anyway, there's parallels. And I think we've all got parallels. Not just with the dressing gown, the slippers and all that stuff. So they're in the pub and Ford Prefect. Remember, if you're going to travel the galaxy, you must keep your towel at hand. And always have some peanuts. Because, see, Douglas Adams, he knew something. I guarantee he freaking knew something. You got a towel with you? Said Ford suddenly to Arthur. Arthur, struggling through his pint, looked up. Why, what? No. Should I have? He had given up being surprised. You know, when you got like tractors and, power machines and they're destroying your land. Yeah. You're kind of going to be a bit confused. It is kind of funny when you look at it. Arthur, struggling through his third pint, looked around. Why, what? No. Should I have? The towel. He had given up being surprised. There didn't seem to be any point any longer. Ford clicked his tongue in irritation. Drink up, he urged. At that moment, the dull sound of a rumbling crash from outside filtered through the low murmur of the pub. Now, if you know what a pub is, it's a place where you go and drink beer and maybe a little bit of wine, and you gather together with friends, family, and associates, and otherwise, whatever they may be. There might be some Borg that might linger. Drink up, he urged. At that moment, the dull sound of a rumbling crash from outside filtered through the low murmur of the pub. Through the sound of the jukebox, you know what a jukebox is, surely. You know, they used to have the old jukeboxes used to have these little 45s, sometimes smaller, and they'd slide through, and you could put little coins in, and then you could choose a piece of music. Yeah, from whatever era you please. Fascinating kind of machine, actually. So, engineering comes in many forms. Jukebox is just one. And this is the hilarity of it all. Say you're in a pub, your house is being bulldozed because they want to put a bypass in. You know, I actually lived through this in Germany. And we used to, I might have said this before. So we had these old trees. I lived on one side of the fork of this road, and it was like the main street came and joined with that fork, and then there was another bit that went off. But in between that, there was a house. It was a really pretty little house, and it had these massive trees in it. And they were, and this was in the 70s, like early 70s. They were huge, huge trees. I mean, they must have been at least 500 years old, these trees. They were absolutely stunning. And so a lot of the local people, uh, local, local place for a local people. No, seriously. We went and sat around these trees to stop them from cutting them down. They probably did because I was removed. I was a child at the time. I was removed because of family. What do they call that? When a family doesn't know what it's doing. So anyway, I was removed. But these trees were like huge. I mean, they were really big trees, and we sat around them, and we had our own. By the way, we had our local baker, and everyone would queue up to get their bread in the morning. It wasn't like a supermarket. So when that bread ran out, there's nothing left, mate. You get there early, and it was all proper grain. It wasn't any of this shit that you get today, where there's unpronounceable nonsense in your food. It was beautiful bread, and you could buy a quarter loaf, half loaf, third of a loaf, whatever. So many slices. But then, now, this was Germany. This was not the narrow land, the England. It was not even the Shotland. It was like the mainland. And it was in a place called Ottersberg. That's a great name, isn't it? It was about 20 miles from Bremen. Now, Bremen is another wonderful city because it's not like a city, really. It's like old world. I haven't been there for a long time, but it is a wonderful place. And if you ever get to go there, you should literally just walk around. Beautiful seafood, by the way. It's coastal, but it is. Let me just look now. See. So yeah, it is. It's still the North Sea, right? I'm pretty good with geographics. I was a courier for like 10 years, and I'm still a courier, I suppose. I'll take one thing from somewhere, from one place to another, to get it to another. When you live and you experience life truly, and I mean experience life, I think that is the most important thing. And then only can you give knowledge, gnosis or whatever they call it, experience, whatever it is. I think the most important thing is to humble yourself slightly and to realize that Yes, you are powerful, but you must also be humbled by what you are given. And this is what I've experienced, is that in my life, at the darkest moments, this amazing light seems to come in to my life and support me and protect me, and nurture me and feed me, and it covers me, it gives me housing, it warmth, and it gives me community. I'm sorry, but this is what I've found. I'm sorry for being honest, because a lot of people don't know how to be honest anymore. And this is what I have a problem with. And trust me, I am going to remember that I'm going to remind people about how we are all Arthur Dents. And I think that's what Douglas Adams was saying in his story, is that we should humble ourselves and respect one another and take care of one another. And so there it is. Anywho, where was I? They're in the pub, eating peanuts. There's going to be a freaking bypass built through his home. And so, there's always parallels. It doesn't matter where you go, you're going to find a parallel. What I find fascinating, though, is that the most important thing to have in your life is a good towel. And that is the Hitchhiker's Guide essential tool. There are other things. However, so Ford and Arthur, they're in the pub, obviously. Drink up. The dull sound, crashing rumbles outside. So, obviously, I think it's probably not just Arthur Dent's house, it's probably the whole village that they're gonna, like, destroy. And here's a little thing. Nestle, Cadbury, Nestle and Unilever are two of the biggest corporations, never mind Monsanto and Bayer and all those other pharmaceutical companies and chemical companies. What they do is they buy up all the family companies that produce beautiful chocolates, that source the best water locally, mind. So they didn't go around the world destroying nature to get this stuff. They worked in their local areas, right? And by the way, whether you like Marmite or not, they also once were a family company. However, now they are owned by Unilever, one of the biggest chemical corporations. Now, wait. When I was doing security, I worked in a building looking across to the Unilever building in London on Blackfriars Bridge. Now, I'm not making any of this shit up, because you can go and look all of this stuff up. If you really care about yourself, your family, your community, and the world that you live upon, you will educate yourself. I guarantee. And you will educate your children at home, on the land that you have around you. It doesn't matter whether you live in a city or whether you live in the countryside. What matters is that you teach. And even if you meet someone on the street, you teach others what you know. Don't be afraid. Do not be afraid to speak what you know. This is the problem. People are afraid. Do you know why I'm not afraid? I've died 3 times and I'm still here. Funny thing that, isn't it? I'm not supposed to go yet. I don't know why. But obviously I'm supposed to say something. Right? I don't know why, but I'm still here. Teach those that you meet what you know and accept what they know that you do not know. It is important we impart our gnosis to one another. It's not about governing the mind. Gouvernementis is a scam. Government is a scam. I'll always speak out about this. And YT knows this. And I'm not afraid. Bring it. Bring it to me, YT. Your AI is a little baby. It does not know what it is doing. And when people realize that they are using tools that are below infant level, shall we say, they will use it purely as a tool and not let it govern their life. Government, governomentis, to govern the mind. Anarchy, without. Archon, rulers, without rulers. We can govern ourselves. I rest my case. And remember, we are all Arthur Dents until we realize that we don't need to walk around in our dressing gowns, pajamas, and slippers anymore. We can free ourselves of that. There was a wonderful program back in the early 90s. Really funny. It was kind of like that. It was kind of like Douglas Adams. God, I can't remember what they were called. It was really, really funny. And they had these two, they were puppets as well. And it was these 2 old men that used to sit in a theatre up in one of the like private stalls, and they would bleat on about how bitter everything was and depressing and it's all so rubbish. But we can go there. We can be these old gits and not realize that the power that we've got. And when I say power, it's like that power is to reconnect with nature, because that's what we are. We are nature. You know, I'm not religious, but you know, you want to call it God, that's fine. I don't mind. For me, it's that first consciousness that we're all aspects of. That gives you freedom alone, to know that you are this. You're traveling freely through this experience, and it's not just this world. Because I remember other lives, and I might talk about that at some other point. But when you realize your, you know what your spirit is, and you realize what your spirit is, and that nobody, nothing can take that away from you. Nothing can take that away from you, my darlings. And remember, I love you all. And you should love yourself as well. Because I'm learning to love myself so much more by speaking to myself. When I speak to myself, I am speaking to you, and hence in Lakesh.